Hi, my name is Benito Lo, and today I am going to talk about my spatial database design that I created for my own thesis project at San Diego State University. So the way I'm going to do my presentation today is first I'm going to talk a little bit about my thesis at San Diego State, discussing the study side and the design, which is a little complicated, and the data that came out of that experimental design. And then afterwards, I'm going to talk about my database design and talk about the features individually. And so first a little bit about my thesis. I am currently a master's student at San Diego State in the ecology department, and my thesis has to do with how grassland restoration techniques affect our understand or how grassland restoration techniques affect the soil and how those changes to the soil might affect above ground grass growth. So if you take a look at this diagram, if you focus on the above ground ecosystem, you look, the common topics that are often studied by researchers are the interaction between native and non-native plants. A lot of ecological research has also focused, if you look at the below ground ecosystem, on how the microbial community interacts with nutrients and physical soil characteristics, and then how these two systems, how the above ground ecosystem and the below ground ecosystem interact with one another. Now, when it comes to restoration, the common or a common research theme is to look at how restoration techniques affect above ground plant growth, because in effect that's really what we're looking at. But what my thesis is really interested in is looking at how restoration techniques affect the nutrients in the soil and other soil properties, and then going upwards, how the changes to the soil affects grass growth. And so for my experiment, I set up an experiment on San Clemente Island, which is 39 miles off the coast of California. This island has a heavy history of plant invasion and of disturbance. And so it makes for a good site. On the island, we set up 3 burns, where sites 1 and 2 are the southernmost burns, and they burned as a result of an accidental burn. On these burns, we set up experimental plots, and it should be noted that these plots are more native. They have more native grasses. And on site 3, the northernmost site, this site burned as a result of a controlled burn. As a result, it was a hotter burn. But this site is also more invaded, more disturbed, and has more non-native grasses growing in them. And so we can compare between sites, and then we can also compare within site between the different treatments. And so the treatments are as follows. Within each site, we've set up either 4 or 5 treatment blocks, and you can see the treatments here. There's a variety of treatments, including irrigation and seeding and herbicide, and some sort of combination between those 3. The data that comes out of this experimental design can be broken up into 3 major blocks of data types. The first were collected by me and analyzed by either me or my students. And these are the soil assay data. And so we performed a variety of soil assays that lets us know the nutrients that are in the soil, the moisture, and the pH of the soil, and also biotic traits such as bacteria to fungal ratio and extracellular enzymes. The next block of data that can be described as the vegetation survey data. The vegetation survey data was collected by my partner in the project, and the vegetation survey data describes the species that we found on the treatment plots, as well as the percent cover that they were found in and their relative abundance. And finally, the last block of data is experimental or environmental or abiotic data, and that's data that might inform the distribution of plants and soil assays that might not be accounted by the treatments that we exhibited. And this might include rainfall or temperature, slope, and aspect.